So I was asked to explain a little bit why the minor arcane cards in my Sacred India Tarot, the tarot deck that I created, the Sacred India Tarot, why they are so unique, why they are so distinctive and unusually different from most tarot packs. The answer is very simple. I was deeply impressed by the mythic tarot, which was created by Juliet Sherman Burke. And she not only had characters from Greek mythology in the major arcana, she did something spectacular in the minor arcana, in that she selected a story. She selected a story, a myth, a great myth from beginning to end, and ran it through the entire cards from card number 1 to 10. And the court cards used to be connected to that story in the suit. And the story used to be vibrating in tattva terms, in great element terms, earth, water, fire, air, spirit. So I found that to be an exceptionally brilliant thing, because it showed, for one thing, that the progression of the energy, the progression of the wisdom in the tarot suits is an archetypal progression, because it fits so perfectly with mythical unfolding. If the myth unfolds in an archetypal manner, in a manner that is common to everybody in the world, because otherwise it is not a myth, then it becomes a folk tale, it becomes a story. But if the myth unfolds in an archetypal manner, and the tarot has managed to do that, the suits of the minor arcana unfold in exactly that manner, and the story doesn't have to be fitted back to front, you don't have to take incidents out of context. Everything flows exactly as it flowed in the original story. At certain points, you say this card represents that incident, and they are in sequence. They are not just done, they are not out of sequence. The story flows from beginning to end, and each incident happens in sequence, so that archetypal skeleton, that archetypal structure of myth. I discovered that the minor arcana is, rather, Juliet discovered that, and I recognized what she had done. I saw that it is exactly the same. The unfoldment of the minor arcana is exactly the same as the unfoldment of the archetypal skeleton, or the archetypal innate structure of how the archetype expresses itself. And I was quite stunned actually when I first saw it. Then my thought was, but this must work in Indian culture also, because we also have some of the very most ancient mythologies in the world. And if this is genuinely an archetypal unfolding, then it will work perfectly with our story. And when I first broached this topic, that we'll not only have images in the minor arcana, unlike most other people who just make do with putting our wands or cups or whatever, that we will tell a story, we will have people with actions there, and we will have episodes and incidents, and we will tell the story in sequence from card number 1 to 10, and then the court cards will be directly and organically connected to the suit. The people in the court cards will be directly connected to the people in the suit. And even my publisher Gautam, he was, can that be done? Is that even possible? Isn't that being way too ambitious? Isn't that biting on more? I said, see, if Juliet has done it, if Juliet Sherman Burke has done it, therefore it is possible. And if it is a real myth and not a folk story or not a fable or something like that, if it is a genuine myth, it has to fall into the archetypal structure. Therefore it is possible. Now, the sort of disbelief and the sort of consternation that people expressed, today in retrospect I have come to realize that it's probably true. There were well-founded grounds for such expression, because in 700 years of tarot, other than Juliet Sherman Burke and yours truly, nobody else has done that. People have used episodes, but they haven't used stories to tell the minor arcana. We are the only two people till today who have pulled that off. So, in that sense, it is Now there are multiple reasons for that, and I should not avoid rudeness because truth is more important than rudeness. And the truth is, the people making the tarot decks don't know mythology that well. Some of them don't know tarot that well also, but let that be. They don't understand how mythological stories work, how myth works. They don't understand the structure of the myth, and they don't see that the mythic structure is the tarot structure. The mythic structure is exactly the tarot structure. So once I zeroed in on this shattering revelation, once I zeroed in on this completely astonishing truth, then my only difficulty was which story to use. Now, the Earth's suit was actually the easiest because Buddha was born a Taurus, and everything he did in life, he was not only born as a Taurus, he was born, achieved enlightenment, and took nirvana all on the same day. It was the exact same calendar day. So it's a great convenience ever since. That Buddha Purnima, you can celebrate all three simultaneously. But his entire life story is a story of the unfoldment of the earth energy. The sadhanas that he does, the very first thing that he did when he went out, he ran away from his palace and the stifling luxury, that he sat and he started trying to restore sensation to his fingertips because he realized that he had become numb. He just couldn't feel anything. Now, that's an earth reaction. And even though he was the Buddha and everything, that one of the endearing little quirks that he continued to carry through to late life was when he had become the head of a big multinational organization, and they had institutions, they had ashrams, they had places to live, and in his bathroom he always wanted flowers to be. So he had that whole vibration of earth, of beauty, of grace, of dignity. All those things were very, and all the sadhanas that they do are also all working with the earth vibration, the earth tattva. So the Buddha story was actually the very easiest one. The most difficult one was the arrows, which are the swords, the air vibration, because they are the last point of tattva vibration before you break into the akasha. The sequence of vibration is earth, water, fire, air, and then finally space or akasha. So the air is the last vibration before you break into akasha. And so that is always the most difficult. In psychological terms, that is why that suit is the most difficult, and all the hard meaning cards are there, all the distressing meaning cards are there. Because in spiritual and psychological terms, those are the last barriers you need to overcome in your limitations to get through. So that is the deeper psychological or the deeper mythic reason why all the bad meaning cards are there. Bad means they say about disaster, accidents, illness, death, those kind of things. So it's not like Indian mythology is lacking in stories of disaster, but to find a coherent story, because we don't write small epics. Our epics are also epic. When we write an epic or we write a story, it expands and expands and expands. So in that sense, I thought, but what is the core myth? Because I've got Buddha in, I need the Ramayana, I need the Mahabharata. Because Ramayana and the Mahabharata are the two most important. They are itihasas, they are histories, they are badly translated, but they are basically mythological histories. So I need the Ramayana and I need the Mahabharata. Now it is impossible to put the whole Mahabharata in. Just impossible. If you put, it's got over 100,000 verses. So there are, but surely there must be a uniting thread. Since the Mahabharata is, after all, in ultimate terms, a mythic structure. It is a myth. It is a living myth. It is something that is relevant. Surely there must be a thread. There must be a sutra. There must be something that holds it all together. And I realized, yes, of course, Bhishma. He was the guy who should have been king of India, and he falters because he wants to make his father happy, and then the entire the entire story of the Mahabharata is possible only because Bhishma derails in the beginning. While his individual responsibility to his father made him forget his social responsibility. So it was a very significant breakthrough to me in that almost the full Mahabharata he is present. He is the underlying substratum. He is the sutra. He is the one that. So and then I looked at his stories and classic swords, classic arrows, classic air tattva vibration with all the difficulties and the. So then that also was easy. Right. We are done with these two suits. Now what do? We need the Ramayana. Ramayana again is too big. But Ramayana, if you look at it, anytime you look at it, very instantly you realize that the whole book is Agni Tattva. Anybody who is little bit advanced in yoga just picks up the Ramayana and can feel that the whole book is Agni Tattva. So how much can I take? I will not be able to say the full epic, but I need it. So then I selected it from the time that Rama is invading Lanka to rescue Sita. That whole Yuddha Kanda and it fitted again perfectly. And the Yuddha Kanda is the war Kanda, is the war chapter, and over there naturally the fiery energy is at its strongest. But the whole Ramayana is, Rama himself was known as Naravyagra. Whenever you call a person Vyagra, tiger, it means that the Kundalini energy, the fiery energy is working in him. Whenever you call a person Kesari, it means a lion. It means that the intellectual energy is working. Rama was called Naravyagra, so it's very clear that Shakti is working, fire is working, and in the end he does defeat Ravana by worshipping Durga, Shakti. And his guru was Vishwamitra, who is the only Rishi who was called Rishi Vyagra, the tiger amongst Rishis. So that fire energy, the clues about it being the fire energy are very clear. So once I selected that, it became very simple. Alright, here is the fire, here is the wands playing out very perfectly. And astonishing, just when you need to come to a certain stage, so that I was very clear about this one thing. I will not change the original tarot meaning of the card just to suit my story. Whatever is depicted in the card has to perfectly vibrate with the original tarot meaning, the classical tarot meaning. And I knew that it would not be as difficult as people suspected or were afraid it would be, because if it is archetypal, it has to play out that way. If it is authentic archetypal work, it has to play out that way. Sometimes I myself got a little staggered at how perfectly they used to fit in context, in place. Now, while it is true that it is archetypal and all that, I am not going to pretend that it's not a great achievement. It is a great achievement. Only two of us have done it till today. That itself is an aspect of creativity that is perhaps not understood. That this is, in that sense, really something unique. But there are other mythology packs, but they're all one shot. Each card is like a snapshot of one story. It is not in sequence. These are the only two packs till today that are coming in sequence. Now the last one, since it's a water suit is usually emotions. The strongest emotion is usually love. Sanskrit literature is full of love stories. So I really did not know which to choose. Should it be Nala Damayanti, because that also all the sequences fit. I almost went with Shakuntalam of Kalidasa, because again the water element is very strong. It is the most well-known love story in that sense. And then I said, hold on. Somehow I was not vibrating correctly with it. I was feeling, there could be a better option. And I said, hold on. In the culture, what is regarded as the greatest love? Let us ask fundamental questions. What is regarded as the strongest emotional bond? The answer is very clear, Shiva and Parvati. And then I went and looked at Kumara Sambhavam, which is Kalidasa's story of how Parvati got to marry Shiva. And I looked at that and I said, alright, here we go. It's easy. So it fitted. I changed. I think in the beginning, even when you had started work on the cards, it was still going to be Shakuntala. And then at the last minute, I suddenly changed, and thank God, because the Jain is a Shiva Bhakta, I am a Shiva Bhakta, and the fact that we started working on Shiva, the whole quality just took off into the stratosphere. The quality of imagery, the quality of work, the quality of this sheer power and vibration that came out. So this was, I've done many unique things with this tarot. This is, I cannot claim to be unique because Juliet was the first one. But only two of us have done this till today. So in that sense, this is a pretty spectacular thing. And the mythologists do not pay much attention to the tarot. The tarot people do not pay much attention to mythology. I think both of them are making a mistake. There is a lot of common ground between the two of them. Not Carl Gustav Jung. Carl Gustav Jung understood that the major arcana were archetypes. He was in fact the first one to actually point it out. The major arcana were archetypes. And Joseph Campbell actually pointed out how much of the tarot is the hero's journey. So it's just an interesting thing, and when it all fell into place, of course, even when people read, they don't really realize. When people use the pack, they use the deck, they don't really realize that the entire tattva, the entire suit is unfolding in perfect sequence, in perfect story sequence. They don't realize that it's unfolding in perfect tarot sequence, in perfect mythic sequence. When it finally dawns on them, they get they get a little intimidated. They get a little that this is like a very strange guy who did a thing like that. This is a, but yeah, it's not that difficult if you really understand how myth works and how tarot works. It's not that difficult. Of course, like I said, most people really don't understand. But that is the reason why we have this really unusual sort of structure to our minor arcana. So